Welcome, Maine Transit partners and safety-sensitive employees. MaineDOT has produced this video with help from National RTAP and RLS and Associates to help ensure compliance with federal regulations regarding training for safety-sensitive employees. Sit back and follow along as we learn about the effects and consequences drug and alcohol use has on personal health, safety, and our work environment.
Think of this as your dashboard for your course. You may select the order of each subject by clicking its name. You can always visit each subject as many times as you want. Once you have successfully completed all of the subjects, a purple end button will appear. When the end button appears, it is your cue that you have finished. It's time to start your course. Select where you want to begin.
We're going to start with cocaine.
Click the picture of the cocaine to learn more about cocaine and safety-sensitive employees. When you are finished, click the right, or next, button.
Cocaine is one of the most dangerous drugs known to man. Once a person begins using cocaine, it has been proven to be almost impossible to become free of its grip physically and mentally. Cocaine is a powerfully addictive stimulant that directly affects the brain. It is the most potent stimulant of natural origin and is one of the most dangerous. Cocaine is extracted from the leaves of the coca plant and had been abused for thousands of years. Street dealers may dilute pure cocaine with inert substances such as lactose, mannitol, cornstarch, and/or sugar, or with active drugs such as lidocaine, or with other stimulants such as amphetamines.
Read the next few screens at your own pace. Click the cone and read the content. When you are finished reading that drivers may be impatient, click the next arrow.
Cocaine is extremely dangerous and can be tested for any time a safety and sensitive employee is on duty. Cocaine use has many negative impacts on an employee's ability to safely perform safety-sensitive functions. Too quick to compensate in acceleration, braking, and shifting. Feeling overly confident in driving judgment and skills. Lapses in attention and in concentration. Drivers unable to display continuous attention to driving. Less alert and extremely sleepy drivers are likely to fall asleep at the wheel. After initial euphoria, drivers exhibit restlessness, irritability, and anxiety. Anger and hostility may be demonstrated toward other drivers. Drivers may be impatient and take more risks.
Click the cone to see more effects. When you have seen them all, click the right arrow.
Extreme danger of convulsions, seizures, and cardiac arrest, and even stroke. Involuntary muscles simply do not work, resulting in a possible collision, usually no warning of impending danger. Distorted vision. Erratic muscle movements producing muscle spasms. Overstimulated reflexes. Drivers may suffer from auditory and visual hallucinations. Cocaine's effects appear almost immediately after a single dose and disappear within a few minutes to an hour. Cocaine affects the central nervous system. The duration of the cocaine's euphoric effect depends upon the route of administration. The faster the drug is absorbed, the more intense the resulting high, but also the shorter the duration.
Click the highway sign to explore the short-term effects. When you have read both circles, click the next button.
Cocaine causes a short-lived intense high that is immediately followed by the opposite, intense depression, edginess, and a craving for more of the drug. People who use it often don't eat or sleep properly. They can experience greatly increased heart rate, muscle spasms, and convulsions. Dry mouth and nose, heart attacks and headaches, gastrointestinal complications, strokes and seizures, extreme nausea, sudden death. constricted blood vessels, dilated pupils, increased body temperature, increased heart rate and blood pressure, bizarre, erratic, violent behavior, restlessness, anxiousness, and tremors.
Read about the short-term effects.
Cocaine is sometimes taken with other drugs, including tranquilizers, amphetamines, marijuana, and heroin. These combinations greatly increase the danger. Research has also revealed a potentially dangerous interaction between cocaine and alcohol. In fact, this mixture is the most common two-drug combination that resulted in drug-related death. With repeated exposure to cocaine, the brain starts to adapt and tolerance may develop. This means the higher doses and or more frequent use of cocaine is needed to register the same level of pleasure experienced during the initial use. At the same time, users can also become more sensitive to cocaine's anxiety-producing, convulsing, and other toxic effects. Next to methamphetamines, cocaine creates the greatest psychological dependence of any drug. Prolonged cocaine use causes sleep deprivation and appetite loss. A person can reach levels of psychosis and begin experiencing hallucinations. Prevent permanent damage to blood vessels and the heart and brain, high blood pressure leading to heart attacks, strokes, or even death, liver, kidney, and lung damage, destruction of tissues in the nose and sinuses if snorted, respiratory failure if smoked, severe tooth decay, infections, diseases, and abscesses if injected, malnutrition, auditory and tactile hallucinations, sexual and reproductive problems, disorientation, apathy, confusion, irritability, mood swings, delirium, psychosis, severe depression are all long-term effects.
When you're ready to take the knowledge check, click the sign. You can always go back and read the content again before starting the knowledge check.
So here we go. We're going to take a little knowledge check. Adults ages 18 to 25 have a higher rate of cocaine use than any other age group, with 1.5% reporting cocaine use in the past month. Overall, past month cocaine use among people aged 12 or older has declined from 2002 to 2010. Less than 1% of adults aged 26 or older reported having used cocaine in the past month. In 2010, cocaine had the highest rate of involvement in U.S. emergency room visits than resulting from use of illicit drugs. So, true or false, cocaine is a powerfully addictive depressant. Correct, it's not a depressant. Cocaine is derived from what plant? The coca plant, poppy, cocaine hydrochloride. I'm going to say the coca plant. Yes. Cocaine is also known as which of the following? Coke, sea, snow, flake, or all of the above? I'm going to say Coke. Perhaps it's all of the above. All of the above. So Coke, sea, snow, flake. All of these are names that cocaine could be used. What age group has the highest rate of cocaine use? 15 to 18, 18 to 25, 25 to 40, 40 to 60, or over 60? I believe we just learned 18 to 25. That would be correct. Long-term cocaine use can cause a person to experience which of the following? Tremors, hallucinations, psychosis, all of the above, or none of the above? This is long-term cocaine use. I'm going to say all of the above, and that would be correct. Short-term effects of cocaine: increased body temperature, heart rate and blood pressure, hunger, exhaustion, or none of the above? I'm going to say increased body temperature, and that's correct. Crack is derived from cocaine. Now, is this true or false? I'm going to say that's true, and that's true. Drivers who are under the influence of cocaine can demonstrate extreme anger and hostility towards other drivers and passengers. Is that true or false? I'm going to say that's true. Crack is less addictive than cocaine. Do we think that's true or do we think that's false? I'm going to say false. They're both addictive. Street dealers may dilute pure cocaine with inert substances such as lactose, mannitol, cornstarch, sugar, or amphetamines. We learned that that was true. Which of the following driving skills are affected? Vision, hearing, reflexes, concentration, or all of the above? Let's say all of those things, which is right. Cocaine users can suffer from visual and auditory hallucinations. I do recall that that is true. The most common two-drug mixture that results in drug-related deaths is which of the following? Cocaine and PCP, cocaine and marijuana, amphetamines and cocaine, cocaine and alcohol, or none of these combinations. We remember not too long ago we learned that that was cocaine and alcohol. Cocaine was first discovered in the 1960s. Was longer ago than that. The effects of cocaine can take several hours to appear. I recall it said it was almost immediate, so I'm going to say false. And that was correct. So it was almost immediate.
You've completed this section of this course. Click Return to Dashboard.
So we've heard about cocaine. Now let's learn about amphetamines.
Click the image of the amphetamine pills to learn more.
Amphetamines are drugs which stimulate the central nervous system and excite functional activity in the human body. 4 drugs are jointly referred to as amphetamines: amphetamine, dextroamphetamine, lisdexoamphetamine, and methamphetamine. All 4 are central nervous and respiratory system stimulants, and their chemical structures are so similar that it is difficult for users to tell them apart. Stimulants are a class of drugs that, when used medically, can generally increase alertness and attention. However, when misused or abused, stimulants can cause serious physical and mental problems. Amphetamines and other stimulants are used medically to decrease daytime sleepiness in treating narcolepsy, some forms of depression, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. However, due to the potential for abuse and addiction, other treatment methods are used more frequently. Brand names of amphetamines or stimulants include Adderall, Ritalin, Dexedrine, and Dexazoxane.
Read the next few screens at your own pace. Click the highway sign and read all of the content.
So the effects on driving. Amphetamines can be tested for anytime safety-sensitive employees are on duty. Amphetamine use can greatly affect an employee's ability to perform safety-sensitive functions. Stimulants keep drivers awake, but also make their driver edgy, less coordinated, and more likely to be involved in traffic collisions. Amphetamines may impair the ability to engage in potentially hazardous activities such as driving a motor vehicle. Effects could be high-speed driving, failing to stop at stop signs and traffic lights, diminished divided attention and an inattentive driving, impatience and erratic driving, nervousness and high-risk driving, rapid non-stop speech and unintelligible speech, general cognitive impairment and fatigue, disorientation, agitation, and staggering, hyperactive reflexes, unconsciousness. Effects on the body. The diversion of Adderall and Ritalin appears to be increasing largely as a result of an increasing number of patients selling their legitimately prescribed supplies to abusers. Because both drugs are stimulants, the effects of both are similar to that of cocaine and methamphetamine when abused. Ritalin and Adderall are typically snorted or dissolved in water and injected.
Read about the short-term effects.
Amphetamine and methamphetamine is highly addictive and extremely dangerous. A heavy amphetamine user's physical appearance can dramatically change because of the drug. Several years of aging can occur within a few months. A typical user is malnourished and suffers skin disorders, abscesses, tooth loss, and rapid weight loss. Additionally, an amphetamine user can suffer from severe mental illness resulting in crime, rape, homicide, violence, and death. Short-term effects can be shown as dilated pupils, anxiety, crying, hyperexcitability, depersonalization, dry mouth, euphoria, fast, pounding, irregular heartbeat, hyperventilation, irritability, mental depression, nervousness, paranoia, restlessness, shaking, shortness of breath, and difficulty sleeping.
Click the right or next button to learn more about these drugs.
Methamphetamine is a central nervous system stimulant drug that is similar in structure to amphetamine. Due to its high potential for abuse, methamphetamine is classified as a Schedule II drug and is available only through a prescription that cannot be refilled. Crystal meth. Most of the methamphetamine abused in this country comes from foreign or domestic super labs, although it can be made in small illegal laboratories where its production endangers the people in the lab, neighbors, and the environment. Methamphetamine can come in many forms and colors, but it is typically a powder that is easily dissolved in water or alcohol and is taken orally, intranasally, by snorting, by needle injection, or by smoking. It is a dangerous poison that first acts as a stimulant but then systematically destroys the body. Thus, it is associated with serious conditions including memory loss, aggression, psychotic behavior, and potential heart and brain damage. You can learn more at www.streetdrugs.org. Taking even small amounts of methamphetamine can result in many of the same physical effects as those of other stimulants such as cocaine or amphetamines, including increased wakefulness, increased physical activity, decreased appetite, increased respiration, rapid heart rate, irregular heartbeat, increased blood pressure, and hypothermia. When taken, methamphetamine creates a false sense of well-being and energy, and so a person will tend to push his or her body faster and further than it is meant to go. Thus, the drug user can experience a severe crash or physical and mental breakdown after the effects wear off. Because continued use of meth decreases natural feelings of hunger, users can experience extreme weight loss.
Click the highway sign to explore the long-term effects. When you have read both circles, click the next button.
Long-term methamphetamine abuse has many negative health consequences, including extreme weight loss, severe dental problems, such known as meth mouth, anxiety, confusion, insomnia, mood disturbances, and violent behavior. Chronic methamphetamine abusers can also display a number of psychotic features, including paranoia, visual and auditory hallucinations, and delusions. For example, the sensation of insects crawling under the skin. The long-term effects are increased in heart rate, blood pressure, and body temperature, dilution of pupils, disturbed sleep patterns, nausea, sores on the skin, bizarre erratic behavior, hallucinations, hyperactivity and irritability, panic and psychosis, convulsions, seizures, and even death. Ecstasy, MDMA, methylene dioxymethamphetamine, is a synthetic psychoactive drug that is chemically similar to the stimulant methamphetamine and the hallucinogen mescaline. Although not originally included, ecstasy was added to the list of the drugs the DOT now tests for. Ecstasy is most often taken orally, usually as a capsule or tablet, but can also be injected and taken in other ways. It was initially popular among Caucasian adolescents and young adults in the nightclub scene or at a weekend-long dance party known as a rave. More recently, though, the profile of the typical ecstasy user has changed, with the drug now affecting a broader range of ethnic, age, and socioeconomic groups.
Click the highway sign to read about the effects on driving until you have read them all.
Ecstasy users make extremely dangerous drivers. They can exhibit the same impairments as amphetamine, heroin, cocaine, and hallucinogen users. One ecstasy user was quoted as saying, "I drove a few times while on ecstasy. I had no idea what was going on. I saw a stop sign and thought, wow, that's really red. I never made the connection." Some of the effects on driving are slowed thinking and reflexes, making reacting difficult, distorted visual and depth perception, difficulty making complex decisions, lengthened glare recovery time, overly confident in driving skills and judgment, lapses in attention and concentration, driver is unable to display continuous attention, distorted vision, auditory and visual hallucinations. MDMA, the chemical abbreviation for ecstasy, affects the brain by increasing the activity, serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. I do apologize for butchering that. Like other amphetamines, MDMA causes an increase in serotonin, which plays an important role in the regulation of mood, sleep, pain, appetite, and other behaviors. The excess release of serotonin by MDMA likely causes the mood elevating effects experienced by users. However, by releasing large amounts of serotonin, MDMA causes the brain to become significantly depleted of its important neurotransmitter, contributing to the negative behavioral after effects that users often experience for several days after taking MDMA. Studies have shown that some heavy MDMA users experience long-lasting confusion, depression, and selective impairment of working memory and attention processes.
Click the highway sign to explore the short-term effects. When you have read both circles, click Next.
Ecstasy can produce confusion, depression, sleep problems, drug craving, and severe anxiety. These problems can occur soon after taking the drug or sometimes even days or weeks after taking it. Degenerative nerve branch and endings, depression, anxiety, memory loss, kidney failure, hemorrhaging, psychosis, cardiovascular collapsing, convulsions, and even death.
Click the highway sign to explore the long-term effects. When you have read both circles, click the Next button.
Ecstasy can also be dangerous to overall health and, on rare occasions, lethal. It can have many of the same physical effects as other stimulants such as cocaine or amphetamines. These effects include increased heart rate and blood pressure, which present risks of particular concern for people with circulatory problems or heart disease. Long-term ecstasy use can cause severe, long-lasting brain damage, affecting thought and memory. The portion of the brain that regulates critical functions such as learning, sleep, emotion, and control is damaged. It has been explained as the brain switchboard was torn apart and rewired backwards.
When you're ready to take the knowledge check, click the sign. You can always go back and read the content again before starting the knowledge check.
While MDMA itself produces many harmful effects, what is sold as ecstasy on the street can contain a wide mixture of substances from LSD, cocaine, heroin, and amphetamines to rat poison, caffeine, and drain cleaner. The user never knows what he or she is taking. The dangers increase when the user increases the dose, seeking a previous high, not knowing they are taking an entirely different combination of drugs. Chronic users of ecstasy perform more poorly than non-users of certain types of cognitive or memory tasks, although some of these effects may be due to the use of other drugs in combination with ecstasy. Before we take our knowledge check, I'd like for you all to see a quick video about ecstasy. We're going to drugfreeworld.org for some real life stories about ecstasy.
Skittles,
pills,
X,
triple stacks,
rolls,
smiley faces,
E-bombs,
MDMA,
Molly,
beans,
ecstasy.
It's not worth the momentary high. It just sucks the life out of you. It sucks the happiness out of you.
Ecstasy is a synthetic or man-made mind-altering drug. It can have other qualities like as a stimulant, a depressant, or hallucinogenic.
They're almost the size of like an Advil or something, and they have different pictures, and they're all different colors.
I mean, it's a designer drug. It's made with all different types of chemicals.
You never know what's in it.
The facts are is that it's not just in nightclubs or raves anymore. It's in our own homes. Kids are taking it, and teenagers are taking it. Adults are taking it for fun. They think it's a recreational drug, and it's not. It's much more serious than that.
Well, it started out as parties. It started out like me and my boyfriend would go to a party.
90 to 100% of the people were on ecstasy when I was at parties.
I mean, there's so many different varieties of it out there, whether it's cut with methamphetamine like heroin, some's cut with more dope than others.
So when I took ecstasy, where I was hallucinating so heavily, it was because the batch had acid in it or LSD in it.
It was a speed-based ecstasy pill, and I was so wired up, I had foam coming out of the side of my mouth.
There's just so many things that play a factor in it. It's pretty unknown.
I've been to raves and seen countless people taken away in ambulances. Just, you never know what you're gonna get in that pill. It was the summer out of 8th grade.
I was about 16 the first time I took ecstasy.
I was 18. I just got out of high school and was moving into my first college apartment.
As a freshman in college, that would have been 19 years old.
I went to celebrate my 21st birthday with a bunch of friends, and I went to this club, and one of my friends pulled me aside in the bathroom and said, "Hey, I mean, you feel really good right now. I have something that'll make you feel even better."
They'd be like, okay, if you take this ecstasy right now, you're gonna feel so great. You're gonna feel like you're on top of the world. Just try it. Come on.
And I was pretty worried. Was this really addictive? What would it do to you? And he just said, oh, no, it's like this really big thing. It's really, really big on the nightclub scene. And it's not that bad. It's not like you get addicted to it or anything.
It had a little dolphin stamp on it, and well, I thought, okay, this can't be bad. I mean, one small little pill, no big deal.
So me and a bunch of my girlfriends took it, and we were partying all night long, but then the next morning I didn't realize what it had done to me because I was so depressed. It just sucked like all the happiness out of me.
The next day I woke up and I just felt so bad. The first thing I thought was, you know what, like, I can't wait to take more X because I just don't want to feel like this. And, you know, for the next few days after I took it, I felt like crap.
The next time you take it, it's like you have to take 4 to 5 pills.
But when you come down, all you want is to go back up again because you just hit that depression.
And next thing you know, you're like taking 9 to 10 pills, not even getting close to that first time.
Just stuck in your head, what, I'm such a loser, I'm this, I'm that, you know what I mean? And I'll never do this drug again, and then half an hour to an hour later, you're doing it again because it's the only thing that makes you feel better.
And so it pretty much was like a revolving door, just like trying to get happy, then getting sad, then happy, then sad, and just kept getting worse and worse.
So you're almost scared to come down from it because you don't know what's going to happen when you come down. Because you're so depressed, you feel so bad, your body feels so terrible.
You can't sleep, you can't eat, you're like extremely hot and sweating.
I was being up and down every day. My emotions were so dysfunctional. They didn't make any sense to me. I didn't know what was going on with my body.
I felt like a different person. I felt, you know, I wasn't okay with myself. I felt like a different guy when I was on it.
It just really warps the brain, and I think it changes a person's personality. And unfortunately, it's been heavily promoted. It's okay, it's a party drug, it's a love drug, and really it's a dangerous drug.
Take it to a nightclub and you'll go and you'll dance and you're not worried about, going and getting water or whether or not your heart's about to explode. It's pumping so fast.
The whole time I was high on ecstasy, I'd be clenching my jaw. You literally just want to go bite down and clench your teeth the whole time.
You can overdose, you can overheat your body, you can dehydrate your body and pass out.
It's just like this urge to go, go, go. I would dance until I couldn't, until I had blacked out.
I actually have witnessed more than once somebody dying from the first time of taking ecstasy.
It made me somebody who I wasn't. I was fulfilling my addiction. Whether it's through running prostitution rings, gambling rings, selling drugs to kids.
I drove on ecstasy a couple times. I had no idea what was really going on. I know I would see a stop sign or a stoplight and I'd be like, wow, that's really, really red. I didn't make the connection, well, it's a red light. I think I should stop my car now. Driving under the influence of ecstasy, I didn't make those connections at all.
We were probably 16 or 17, and I was the only one who was on ecstasy, and everybody else was drinking. So the police came and saw us, and everybody was acting drunk and silly, and they took me and put me into jail for the night and held me there. At the time, I thought it was hilarious because I didn't care about anything. I was on ecstasy, but then the next morning, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in jail right now.
I got caught with ecstasy on me, got thrown in jail in a really run-down area of South Carolina. And I was on ecstasy and I was extremely depressed in jail around these really big guys threatening to basically beat me up.
We went out to a club one night and I had taken, 2 or 3 rolls, and I got in the club and I started pouring the sweat. I ended up passing out and they had to throw me into a cold shower.
I was passed out, but the people who worked in the club would drag me out of the nightclub because they don't want you to die in their club. So they'll drag you out to the sidewalk and leave you there until the ambulance comes in and takes you away.
I blacked out for God knows how long and woke up in a tub of ice with my friends around me, the fear in their faces of not knowing if I was alive or not. And the craziest part about it is, in a situation like that, because drugs are involved, you don't know whether to call an ambulance or what to do because you have the fear of getting in trouble for it too. Basically, I could have died because they didn't know what to do.
Ecstasy, that's such a new and designer drug over the last decade or so. They really don't even still know the long-term effects of it themselves because it depends on what type you're using.
It causes brain damage, and when you have brain damage, that can cause effects on various things such as coordination, certain dexterities, communication.
I had, for a long time, jaw pain. I've had teeth problems for a long time after I took them.
When I see a doctor and stuff, they tell me my worst repercussions are down the road. You know what I mean? With the drug abuse I did.
They didn't tell me that I was going to become very addicted to this. I was going to become extremely depressed. I was going to develop a, $200 or $300 habit a week on this stuff. That I'd have to go to rehabs. That I was going to be arrested 3 times. That I was going to be thrown in jail 2 times. That I was going to have to total 3 cars. Nobody really ever told me about that stuff, the first time I took ecstasy.
It seems like it's a lot of fun, and you think that everybody else is doing it, or they look like they're having a great time, but in reality, it's evil. It'll take control of you and run your life for you.
If I knew what I knew now and I could go back, I never would have touched a drug. Like I said, when I went into it, I didn't think it was going to do any damage. It seemed like a normal thing for me, to take ecstasy. That a lot of people took ecstasy and they ended up doing fine, but that's not the case.
Nothing bad may happen. Cool, that's fine. Take these next 3 weeks. How are you gonna feel? What about your job, your school, your body's health, your family's, emotions towards you? You take those 2 facts, there's no choice. It's like jumping out of a plane and just having a set of silverware as a parachute. It's not a decision.
It's true. It really is. Because even if you don't get hurt from the drug the first time you take it and you enjoy it, there's a downside to that too, because then you enjoy it, then you want to do it again. And once you do it again, it's the start of your own destruction.
Okay, so now it's time for our knowledge check. Repeated amphetamine use can lead to addiction. Yes. Long-term methamphetamine abuse has which of the following negative health consequences? Extreme weight loss, severe dental problems, anxiety, violent behavior, or all of the above? All of the above. All amphetamines are sold as white powder. Is that true or false? I think we learned that they look like candy almost. They look like vitamins. So I'm going to say that that is false. They come in all kinds of forms. And that is correct. Amphetamine can be used medically to treat which of the following? Hypertension, narcolepsy, diabetes, or severe pain? Now, this is a tough one. I'm pretty sure they stay awake, so we would treat narcolepsy, which is correct. Common signs and symptoms of amphetamine use include which of the following? Dry mouth, paranoia, shaking, difficulty sleeping, or all of the above. Now, from that video that we just watched, I believe they talked a little bit about each of these things. So we're going to say all of the above, which is true. Stimulants are a class of drugs that generally increase alertness, attention, and energy. Is that true or false? That is true. Amphetamines are depressants. True or false? I think you get depressed when you come down off them, but initially they are not depressants. So we're going to say false, and that's correct. Methamphetamine production can endanger the environment. Now, this is kind of a tricky question. Is that true or false? Well, how many times have we heard in the news about a meth lab here in Maine blowing up somebody's house? We're going to say that that is true. It is an endanger to the environment. Amphetamines affect the user's central nervous system. How many of those folks were talking about how hot they were, waking up in ice? That's true. Adderall and Ritalin are commonly abused stimulants. True or false? These are legally prescribed for ADHD. So we're going to say yes, and that is true. Amphetamine use can result in rapid aging and malnutrition. We're going to say true, and that is correct. Drivers who use amphetamines to stay awake are less likely to be involved in a traffic accident. True or false? Well, they might be staying awake, but if they can't see that the red sign is actually a stop sign, I think that that's false. They have a higher likelihood of getting in an accident. A common licit or legal amphetamine is aspirin, morphine, Adderall, or Zoloft. Adderall. Street names for amphetamines include which of the following? Weed, speed, coke, blow. Football, speed, co-pilots, uppers. Crank, crack, downers, notos. Or none of these. Well, since they give you this feeling of euphoria and that you can dance all night to the point that you don't know you're sweating to the point of passing out, I'm going to say they're definitely uppers. Speed, footballs, co-pilots. Let's try that. Correct. Methamphetamine use has many of the same effects as which other drug? Cocaine, marijuana, alcohol, ecstasy, or none of the above? They said it was similar to cocaine, which was correct. Ecstasy can be lethal. As we heard from one of the girls in the video, she saw more than once someone die on their first use of ecstasy. That's true. Which of the following are signs or symptoms of ecstasy use? Confusion, depression, sleep problems, severe anxiety, or all of the above? All of the above. How is ecstasy typically ingested? Is it taken orally, smoked, injected, or snorted? Well, we saw those little pills with stamps on them, so I'm going to say orally. And that is true. What is the chemical abbreviation for ecstasy? MAMA, MNDA, MDMA, or DAMN? MDMA. The portion of the brain that regulates sleep, learning, emotion, and control is seriously damaged with prolonged ecstasy use. Is this true? I believe it is. Ecstasy can have the same physical effects as what drug? Cocaine, heroin, marijuana, amphetamines, or AND, which would be cocaine and amphetamines. I'm going to say AND. It wouldn't be the same as marijuana since marijuana will chill you out and these are uppers. So we're going to say AND. Recent medical research has concluded that long-term ecstasy users demonstrate increased memory and cognitive ability. Now that would be a good thing. Increased memory. I'm pretty sure that it will decrease your memory and cognitive ability, so we're going to say false, which is correct. Possible long-term effects of ecstasy can include which of the following? Hemorrhaging, psychosis, death, none of the above, or all of the above? We know death was an option. Psychosis was there, as well as hemorrhaging. I'm going to say all of the above, which is correct. Now, only white females use ecstasy? I'm going to say false. Ecstasy causes an increase in the body's production of serotonin, which plays a role in regulating what? Mood, pain, sleep, or all of the above? I know all of these were affected by ecstasy, so let's say all of the above for serotonin, which is correct. In what ways can ecstasy affect your driving skills? It will make you more sensitive to light and sound, auditory and visual enhancement, shortened glare recovery time, or A and C, or none. Sensitivity to light and sound, auditory and visual enhancement, shortened glare recovery time. I know it's not E, none of these, so I'm going to say A and C, sensitivity to light and sound and shortened glare recovery time, which is correct. Street names for ecstasy include A, Adam and Eve, X, XTC, and XE, Love Pill, Lover's Speed, Beans, Scooby Snacks, or all of the above. We're going to say all of those can be slang for ecstasy, and that is correct. So one pill goes by many names. What is sold on the streets as ecstasy is always pure MDMA. Do we trust the people selling drugs on the street? Probably not. So we are going to say that is false. It can also be laced with other drugs. Ecstasy is chemically similar to which drugs? Methamphetamine, cocaine and alcohol, crack and morphine, or none of these? We're going to say methamphetamine, which is correct. No one has ever had a bad experience the first time they've used ecstasy. Is that true? Not according to the video. We're going to say false.
You've completed this section of this course. Click Return to Dashboard.
Now let's talk about marijuana.
Click the image of the marijuana buds to learn more.
Marijuana is the most widely used illegal substance in the world today. Between 2007 and 2010, the rate of use increased from 5.8 to 6.9%. The number of current users increased from 14.4 million to 17.4 million. Some states allow the medical and/or recreational use of marijuana. However, the federal government preempts all state and local rules, and for purposes of DOT drug testing, marijuana is strictly prohibited. Marijuana is cannabis sativa, which has been cultivated for thousands of years. The marijuana plant is typically dried and crushed, and the leaves are smoked usually as a cigarette or a joint. Users can also mix it with food or brew it as tea. Sometimes users open up cigars and remove the tobacco, replacing it with pot. Marijuana is oftentimes laced with more powerful drugs such as crack, cocaine, PCP, or opium. THC is the primary mind-altering agent in marijuana. THC can be found in all parts of the cannabis plant, including hemp, the plant's tough, coarse fiber. THC is a Schedule I controlled substance and will be identified on DOT-regulated drug tests. According to scientific studies, THC can remain in the body for weeks or longer.
Read the next few screens at your own pace. Click the cone and read the content until you have read them all.
Evidence shows that an individual's ability to perform complex tasks, such as driving, is strongly impaired while under the influence of marijuana. Because the perceptual or other performance deficits resulting from marijuana use may persist for some time after the high, some users may attempt to drive because they do not recognize their impairment. Marijuana also produces an inability to complete psychomotor tasks. Effects on driving are decreased car handling performance, impaired reaction times, impaired time and distance estimation, inability to maintain headway, subjective sleepiness, impaired coordination, impaired motor vigilance, THC affects the areas of the brain that control the body's movement, balance, coordination, memory, and judgment. The use of marijuana impairs driving performance due to an individual's altered perception of space and time, and his or her reduced ability to make quick decisions. Marijuana has been shown to impair performance on driving simulator tasks and open and closed driving courses for up to approximately 3 hours. The more difficult and unpredictable the task, the more likely marijuana will impair performance. When a person smokes a joint, he or she usually feels the effects within a few minutes. The immediate sensations are increased heart rate, lessened coordination and balance, and a dreamy, unreal state of mind that peaks within about 30 minutes. These short-term effects typically wear off within 2 to 3 hours. However, they can last longer depending on how much the user takes, the THC potency, and the presence of other drugs. Impairment lasts significantly longer than the buzz the user is aware of.
Read about the short-term effects.
Within a few minutes after inhaling marijuana smoke, an individual's heart begins beating more rapidly, the bronchial passages relax and become enlarged, and blood vessels in the eyes expand, making the eyes appear red. Short-term marijuana use effects include:
Click the marijuana leaf to learn more. When you are done, click the next button.
sensory disorientation, heightened sensory perception, increased blood pressure and heart rate, red eyes, decreased coordination, difficulty concentrating, increased appetite, slowed reaction time, addiction, panic, paranoia, persistent anxiety, impaired learning skills, and memory difficulties.
Click the purple marijuana pipe to learn about long-term effects.
Long-term effects. Several facts about marijuana smoking have produced persistent concern about its effects on the respiratory system. First, marijuana is smoked unfiltered, and the cigarette is consumed almost entirely. Also, marijuana is deeply inhaled, and when smoked, the smoke is held in the lungs for several seconds. Marijuana smoke contains carbon monoxide, nitrosamines, benzoprine, and over 60 cannabinoid compounds. All of these are respiratory irritants and potential carcinogens. Long-term effects are increased risk of chronic cough, apathy, drowsiness, decreased motivation, depression, growth disorders, bronchitis and emphysema, increased risk of cancer, decrease in testosterone levels in men, and an increase in testosterone levels in women, increased risk of infertility, and impairment of the immune system. Tolerance to a drug develops when increasing doses of a drug are required to produce the same effect. If marijuana use is infrequent or doses are small, tolerance to the drug is not apparent. After prolonged use, however, it is necessary to ingest more marijuana to produce the same feelings.
When you're ready to take the knowledge check, click the sign. You can always go back and read the content again before starting the knowledge check.
According to the United Nations, 158.8 million people around the world use marijuana, more than 3.8% of the planet's population. Marijuana is today about 20 times more potent than the marijuana of the 1960s. Over 94 million people in the U.S. have admitted to using it at least once. In 2010, 461,000 emergency room visits in the U.S. involved marijuana, a 64% increase from 2004. According to the US DEA, a large percent of those arrested for crimes test positive for marijuana. Nationwide, 40% of adult males tested positive at the time of their arrest. Now let's take a knowledge check. Contrary to popular belief, marijuana is not the most commonly used illegal substance in the world today. True or false? False. It is the most commonly used illegal substance. If you have a prescription for the medical use of marijuana and take it exactly as prescribed, you will not test positive for a DOT drug test. Is this true or false? This is false. It is not acceptable. You will fail the test. Marijuana users may attempt to drive because they do not recognize that they are impaired. Is this true or false? The video said that you may get over the effects, at least feel it, up to 3 hours later. You could still have it in your system and be impaired. So I am going to say that this is true. Drivers might try to drive, which is true. Long-term effects of marijuana use include which of the following? Decreased risk of infertility, that's a decrease, and we learned that it was an increased risk. Increased memory, that's an increase in memory. I don't think that it's going to help our memory. An increase in testosterone levels in men, I don't believe that's true. It increased testosterone in women, so I'm going to say none of the above. None of these are long-term effects, and that's correct. Short-term effects, red eyes, paranoia, decreased concentration. I'm going to say all of the above, and that's correct. How soon after inhaling marijuana does a user feel the effects? Well, I remember it was within a few minutes. It's not immediate, it's not the next day. It can last several hours, but it was within a few minutes, which was right. Marijuana use today is about 20 times more potent than it was in the 60s. Yes, we just said that. Yes. What is the primary mind-altering agent in marijuana? Is it THC, MDMA, LSD, MJA, or none of the above? It is THC. Because marijuana is a natural substance, it is not a respiratory irritant or potential carcinogen. That is not true. We're going to say false. Everything in it is a respiratory irritant or carcinogen. So false is the answer we're after. How long after smoking a single joint may a person be impaired? 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 8 hours. Well, since it really depends on how much was used, and we know that it can last several hours, we're going to say all of the above, and that would be the right answer. Click the picture of marijuana. Okay, who wants to play at home? I'm going to say these are pills, so that's not it. We're going to say this. And that was correct. In what ways can marijuana use affect driving ability? Does it give us an increased ability to quickly make decisions? An increased awareness of our surroundings? Is it going to impair our time and distance estimation, or is it not going to do any of these things? I'm going to say that it's going to impair our time and distance estimation, and that would be right. What is meant by tolerance? Giving people the choice they want. More drug is needed to produce the same effect. A person has a continual craving, or the urge to try new drugs. Well, it is needing more to get the same effect. Drivers under the influence of marijuana will exhibit distorted visual and depth perceptions. Is this true or false? True. Although marijuana can affect information processing, it does not affect an individual's ability to concentrate or an individual's memory. Well, the long-term effects were exactly these things, so we're going to say false. It will affect these things, which is correct.
You've completed this section of this course. Click Return to Dashboard.
Now let's learn about opiates.
Click the image of the opium poppy to learn more.
Opiates are narcotics derived from the opium poppy plant. All opiates act similarly to morphine. Opium is a milky latex fluid contained in the unripe seed pod of the poppy plant. Although some narcotics are produced synthetically, they are made to replicate the makeup of the ingredients extracted from the opium poppy. The term narcotic in general means a central nervous system depressant that produces insensibility or stupor. The term also comes to designate those drugs and substances with pharmaceutical properties related to opium and its drug derivatives. All opiate narcotics activate opiate receptors and have the potential for abuse. In addition, however, the narcotics are commonly prescribed and are used as effective pain relievers or cough suppressants.
Read the next few screens at your own pace. Click the highway sign and read the contents. When you are finished, click the next button.
Opiate users are generally described as being out of it, meaning they are in a state of extreme fatigue and drowsiness. Users are exceptionally dangerous when operating a vehicle, as they have been known to fall asleep at the wheel. Effects on driving can be slow driving, weaving, slow response to stimuli, blurred or double vision, extreme fatigue and drowsiness, delayed reactions, Difficulty following in directions?
Click the highway sign to see effects until you have read them all. Then click the next button to continue.
Immediately following opiate use, individuals report feeling a surge of euphoria or a rush, accompanied by dry mouth, a warm flushing of the skin, heaviness of the extremities, and clouded mental functioning. Following this initial euphoria, the user goes on the nod, an alternately wakeful and drowsy state. Effects on the body. Pinpoint pupils. No response of pupils to light. A rush of pleasurable feelings followed by depressed feelings. Cessation of physical pain, lethargy. Drowsiness, slurred speech. Shallow breathing. Vomiting. A drop in body temperature. Sleepiness. Loss of appetite. Apathy and decreased physical activity.
Let's learn more about heroin, morphine, and codeine. Click the heroin image to learn more.
Heroin is a highly addictive illegal drug that is used by millions of addicts around the world. Heroin, an opiate synthesized from morphine, is a naturally occurring substance extracted from the seed pod of an opium poppy plant. In its purest form, heroin is a fine white powder, but more often it can be found as rose, gray, brown, or black. The coloring comes from additives which have been used to dilute it. The additives don't fully dissolve when they are injected into the body, and this can clog the blood vessels that lead to the lungs, kidneys, and brain. This leads to infection or destruction of vital organs. Heroin can be injected, snorted, or smoked. Routes of administration that rapidly deliver the drug to the brain. Injection is the use of a needle to administer the drug directly into the bloodstream. Snorting is the process of inhaling heroin powder through the nose, where it is absorbed into the bloodstream through the nasal tissues. Smoking involves inhaling heroin smoke into the lungs. All three methods of administering heroin can lead to addiction and other health problems.
Click the image to read more about morphine.
Morphine is the principal constituent of opium and can range in concentration from 4 to 21%. Commercial opium is standardized to contain 10% morphine. In the United States, a small percentage of morphine obtained from opium is used directly. The remaining is converted to codeine and other derivatives. Morphine is one of the most effective drugs known for the relief of severe pain and remains standard against which new analgesics are measured. Like most narcotics, the use of morphine has increased significantly in recent years. Since 1990, there has been about a threefold increase in morphine products in the United States. Morphine is marketed under generic and brand names, including MS Contin, Oromorph SR, MSIR, Roxanol, and Codeine. Morphine is used by injection for pre-op sedation, as a supplement for anesthesia, or for pain relief. It is the drug of choice for relieving pain of myocardial infarction and for its cardiovascular effects in the treatment of acute pulmonary edema. Traditionally, morphine was almost exclusively used by injection. Today, morphine is marketed in a variety of forms, including oral solutions, immediate and sustained release tablets and capsules, suppositories, and injectable preparations. In addition, the availability of high concentration morphine preparations partially reflects the use of this substance for chronic pain management in opiate-tolerant patients.
Click the image to read more about codeine.
Codeine is a widely used, naturally occurring narcotic for medical treatment in the world. This alkaloid is found in opium in concentrations ranging from 0.7 to 2.5%. However, most codeine used in the United States is produced from morphine. Codeine is also the starting material for the production of two other narcotics, dihydrocodeine and hydrocodone. Codeine is medically prescribed for the relief of moderate pain and cough suppression. Compared to morphine, codeine produces less analgesia, sedation, and respiratory depression, and is usually taken orally. It is made into tablets either alone as a Schedule II or in combination with aspirin and acetaminophen as a Schedule III. As a cough suppressant, codeine is found in a number of liquid preparations, which would be a Schedule V. Codeine is also used to a lesser extent as an injectable solution for the treatment of pain. Codeine products are diverted from legitimate sources and are encountered on the illicit market. Short-term effects of heroin. The first time it's used, the drug creates a sensation of being high. A person can feel extroverted, able to communicate easily with others, and may experience a sensation of a heightened sexual experience, but not for long. Heroin is highly addictive, with a withdrawal is extremely painful. The initial effects of heroin include a surge of sensation or a rush. This is often accompanied by a warm feeling of the skin and a dry mouth. Sometimes the initial reaction can include vomiting or severe itching. Other short-term effects are slowed breathing, cloud mental functioning, nausea, vomiting, sedation, drowsiness, and lethargy. After these initial effects fade, the user becomes very tired for several hours. The basic body functions such as breathing and heart rate slow down. Within hours after the drug effects have decreased, the user's body begins to crave more. If he or she does not get another fix, he will begin to experience withdrawal. Withdrawal includes extreme physical and mental symptoms, including restlessness, aches, and pains in the bones, diarrhea, vomiting, and severe discomfort. Continued use of heroin over time is very destructive to the body. It can result with bad teeth, inflammation of the gums, constipation, cold sweats, itching, weakness of the immune system, coma, respiratory illness, muscular weakness, partial paralysis, long-term impotence, loss of memory and intellectual performance, introversion, depression, and sores on the face and insomnia.
When you're ready to take the knowledge check, click the sign. You can always go back and read the content again before starting the knowledge check.
Opium extract can be found as a fine brownish or white powder, a liquid or a solid. Some derivatives include opium, morphine, codeine, heroin, methadone. With regular heroin use, tolerance develops in which the user's sociological response to the drug decrease, and more heroin is needed to achieve the same intensity. Heroin users are at a high risk for addiction. It's estimated that 23% of individuals who use heroin will become dependent. Since 1990, there have been almost a threefold increase in morphine products in the United States. Codeine is also the starting material for the production of two other narcotics, dihydroxyzine and hydrocodone.
Smack, dope,
H, big H, horse, Helda, boy, girl, black, tar, diesel,
Shiva, dog food,
junk,
heroin.
It will take everything you've ever loved and it will destroy it.
Heroin comes from a poppy plant which grows in big stalks, and it's got this big bulb on the end of it. They extract the white substance by scraping the bulb with a knife, and this milky substance comes out, and they start the refining process.
The opium is refined into morphine, which is further refined into making other forms of heroin.
Most of it's brought from Afghanistan.
And when you're in the West Coast, it usually comes from Mexico.
On the East Coast, there's powdered heroin, which is the gray, brown powder-like substance, and then on the West Coast would be the actual tar heroin, which is like a sticky tar-like substance.
Heroin is usually cut with other things such as either arsenic or other drugs just to make it cheaper, make more money for the dealers.
You never know exactly what they put in it, so you know it's very, very high risk of ODing. One shot, you could die.
It can be smoked, snorted, and shot with a needle.
Started off smoking heroin,
I would just smoke it because I was told that that wouldn't be as addictive as using needles.
I would start out snorting it and I wouldn't get that rush anymore, that good feeling that you're always searching for every time you want to do or snort heroin. And eventually the rush doesn't happen anymore, so you turn to the needle.
I was about 17 years old when I first tried it.
First time when I was 18.
19 years old.
First time I did heroin, I was 14 years old.
It was a friend of mine that introduced it to me.
My boyfriend at the time.
One of my buddies just came and showed me it, and I tried it. That was it.
I decided, okay, something new. Something to make me feel okay with myself and believe I'd be functional.
It started off as, you know, fun. Let's get high. But the problem with heroin is you can't just do it one time.
And at first, I didn't really think I was addicted. I just wanted to try it a few times.
But once you do it, it's you start becoming sick. You start going through withdrawal. The cravings are absolutely worse than any other drug that I had ever done.
The sickness is so intense, you would rather die than go through that.
After I started feeling the effects of it, the side effects, the withdrawal symptoms, and I didn't know what was going on.
Hot sweats and cold chills at the same time, like you just can't get comfortable. You try to fall asleep just to make it go away, and you can't fall asleep.
Your whole appearance changes. I would break out a lot. My skin was like yellow, and my eyes were sunken in.
Hallucinations from lack of sleep, loss of appetite.
I really couldn't concentrate, couldn't pay attention.
And as crazy as it sounds, I didn't know what heroin would do to me when I first started doing it. I was just completely ignorant of that. I just thought, oh, it's another drug. I can just do it on the weekends and have fun.
The reality of it is it is a big deal.
I woke up in Long Beach not knowing how I got there, convulsing and like seizing. And, you know, it had like a skyrocketing temperature of 107, just about dead out the door.
I wound up on the street, homeless, nowhere to go. My family didn't know where I was, and I was just in total apathy. I didn't care about anything.
I was living in a car in the middle of winter in Baltimore, got robbed, got maced in the face. I had nothing. I was freezing and dying, alone.
The house which my boyfriend and I were selling drugs out of got raided many times. One of the times, he hid in the attic and he made me answer the door. They came ramming in. One cop goes and shoves me against the wall, pushes me down the stairs, handcuffs us, and takes us away.
I wanted to get high. I didn't have any money, so I looked at a couple bank statements that my mom got in, transferred over like $27,000 into my account. Spent that within like 2 weeks, broke back into the house after they changed the locks, and ran up to my mother's bedroom, stole her wedding ring, and went and pawned that.
It ended up me getting caught. I got like 4 felonies, a couple misdemeanors, got arrested.
It clouded my mind to the point where everything was almost like a video game. No real sense of consequence, no real sense of, you know, this is what I'm doing to other people around me, or this is what I'm doing to myself. It's just, you know, keep doing what I'm doing.
It was hell. It scared more my parents than anything because it's just like, you know, they wanted to know what they did as parents wrong. And it wasn't them, it was all about me. I didn't care.
It destroyed my family, financially, mentally, and physically.
You're not aware of the damage it's doing to you, not to mention your family.
It destroyed my entire body.
2 years after I quit, I finally could digest a normal meal.
My teeth were destroyed from it.
I still get, you know, restlessness.
My joints and all my bones like constantly ache.
I don't have veins in here anymore.
And I actually have some wounds from it on each of my shoulders.
I mean, I remember hearing, don't do it, you know, just say no. And I had no idea what the reality was.
If I had more information on heroin and the facts and the dangers about it, I definitely would have touched it.
If I would have actually listened and learned some of the things that I know now, I would have never started doing drugs.
You try drugs, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how good of a person you are or what your goals are. The drugs can take it all away.
It's not a joke, it's not a game.
I don't think it's all gonna be fun and games, because it's not. And it never has ended that way for anyone.
No little kid grows up thinking, oh, one day I'm gonna be a heroin addict. They wanna be superheroes or firefighters or things like that. But if you start using, all those things get further away. It just becomes your life. That is your job. When you're a heroin addict, that's what you do. That's all you do.
So now let's do a knowledge check. Opium use affects driving ability in what ways? Impaired vision, difficulty focusing, drowsiness, or euphoria? I remember hearing about drowsiness, so let's look at that. That's not right. So is it difficulty focusing? How would this affect our driving ability? Is it impairing our vision? It's impairing our vision. Out of all of these, opium affects driving ability by impaired vision. All narcotics are either made from the opium poppy or made synthetically to replicate the ingredients of the poppy. That is the very first thing we learned. That is true. Opiates can be used to treat pain. True. Heroin is an opiate. Well, we just watched a video and they were speaking about heroin exclusively, so we'll say yes, which is true. Which system of the body is affected by opiates? The central nervous system, the endocrine system, the cardiovascular system, or the digestive system? We're going to say the central nervous system, which is what it is. How is heroin ingested? Is it injected, smoked, snorted, all of these, or none of these? All. About 75% of heroin users become dependent on it. That is false. Opiates cause the eyes to dilate. Actually had the adverse effect. I believe it made them like pinholes, so I'm going to say that's false. Heroin use withdrawal symptoms include restlessness, discomfort, vomiting, and nausea, aggression, and agitation. A and B or A and C? I don't remember hearing about aggression. I'm going to say A and B, restlessness, discomfort, vomiting, and diarrhea. And that's true. Morphine is a common opiate. Yes. All narcotics have potential for abuse. Which of the following is not an opium derivative? Heroin, morphine. Meperidine or amphetamine? Or is it none of the above? I'm going to say this one. I don't recall seeing that, but that actually is. So I'm going to say none of these. I'm going to say that all of these are derived from opium. That is incorrect. Oh, amphetamine. Right. So heroin, morphine, and meperidine are all opium derivatives. Amphetamine is not. Long-term effects of heroin use on the body include which of the following? Sores on the face, loss of memory and intellectual performance, bad teeth and inflamed gums, or all of the above? And I recall, I think it's all of these.
You've completed this section of this course. Click Return to Dashboard.
So now we only have one section left, one of the 5 panels to look at, and that is PCP.
Click the image of the PCPs to learn more.
And that's phencyclidine. Phencyclidine is psychologically addicting and often leads to dependence, craving, and compulsive PCP-seeking behavior. PCP is a synthetic drug sold as tablets, capsules, or white or colored powder. It can be snorted, smoked, or even eaten. Developed in the 1950s as a Schedule IV anesthetic, PCP was never approved for human use because of problems during clinical studies, including intense negative psychological effects.
Read the next few screens at your own pace. Click the highway sign and read all of the content.
Because of its effects and characteristics, PCP is considered one of the most dangerous drugs. PCP is extremely dangerous if taken while driving or performing any safety-sensitive function. The effects of PCP are so varied and bizarre that it can be difficult to predict all of the dangers involved. The use of PCP is not compatible with the skills required for safe driving. Severe impairment of mental and physical abilities can occur following a single dose. Effects on driving can be confusion, loss of memory, paranoia, sense of invulnerability and power causing the driver to take more risks on the road, aggression, hostility, and violence, a lack of patience, quick to anger, subject to auditory and visual hallucinations, visual distortion, blurred or double vision, loss of time perception, convulsions, coma, even maybe death, lack of coordination or impulse. PCP is a dissociative drug, distorting perceptions of sight and sound, producing feelings of detachment. PCP is a white crystalline powder that is readily soluble in water or alcohol. It has a distinctive bitter chemical taste. Users can experience several unpleasant psychological effects with symptoms mimicking schizophrenia. At low doses, PCP can cause distinct changes in body awareness, similar to those associated with alcohol intoxication. Short-term effects of PCP include drowsiness, perspiration, repetitive speech patterns, and incomplete verbal responses, blank stare and poor coordination, weight loss and increased tolerance for pain, extreme violence, a disregard for personal hygiene, hallucinations, and going comatose, irrational speech or unpredictable behavior, flashbacks, fear and terror, rigid muscles, and a strange gait. Long-term PCP users report memory loss, difficulties with speech and thinking, depression, and weight loss. These symptoms can persist up to a year after cessation of PCP use. An added danger to PCP use is adulteration and misrepresentation. The user may be unaware that it has been ingested, since PCP is oftentimes mixed with other drugs, such as marijuana or cocaine.
Click the sign to learn more.
Use of PCP among adolescents may interfere with hormones related to normal growth and development, as well as the learning process. The National Household Survey on Drug Abuse indicates that the use of and experimentation with hallucinogens, particularly PCP and LSD, has increased over the past 3 years, especially among high school and college students.
When you're ready to take the knowledge check, click the sign. You can always go back and read the content again before starting the knowledge check.
Hallucinogens were abused by relatively few people in the U.S. until the social upheaval in the 1960s. Intense use of PCP can cause psychotic episodes accompanied by tremendous strength. PCP was originally developed as a general anesthetic. For some users, hallucinogens can cause frightening nightmarish episodes called bad trips. An added danger to PCP use is adulteration and misrepresentation. The user may be unaware that it has been ingested, since PCP is often times mixed with drugs like marijuana or cocaine. Taking everything we've learned just now, let's take another knowledge check. PCP always comes in the form of a white powder. It's false. PCP can cause users to hallucinate. True. The effects of PCP can mimic schizophrenia. Is this true or is this false? True. Which of the following methods are used to ingest PCP? Snorting, orally, smoking, or all of the above? All of the above. Which of the following are short-term effects of PCP use? Shortness of breath, numbness, poor coordination, or none of these? Short-term effects. Let's see. What do you folks think? Poor coordination. PCP can interfere with an adolescent's learning process. That's true. Unlike most other street drugs, PCP is not addictive. Really though, is any of this unaddictive? I'm going to say that this is false because I believe PCP, like everything else, can be addicting. And that would be the correct answer. PCP can be addictive. PCP was first developed as a means to treat schizophrenia. I believe it can cause schizophrenia-like episodes, so we're going to say false. It's false. PCP has been approved for clinical use. If you will recall in the earlier video, they wouldn't approve it because it is so unpredictable, so we're going to say false. It has not been approved, which would be correct. PCP is considered a dissociative drug, meaning which of the following? It distorts perception, it reduces pain, it produces feelings of detachment, it cures schizophrenia, or A and C, it distorts perception and produces feelings of detachment. I'm going to say that it does A and C, which would be correct. PCP may affect driving ability in which of the following ways? Loss of time perception, slowed reactions, confusion, paranoia, or all of the above? Let's see, what do we think? What did we learn in those videos? All of the above. PCP is on the rise with which? College students, high school students, young professionals, A and B, or all of the above? Well, I do recall that it did say college and high school students, so I'm going to say A and B. And that's true. PCP is not typically mixed with any other drugs. I'm going to say false because there's always that chance.
You've completed this section of this course. Click Return to Dashboard.
So folks, that now wraps up all 5 areas of the panel: cocaine, amphetamines, marijuana, opiates, and phencyclidine. Thanks for watching, and you have now viewed over the 60 minutes required by the FTA for safety sensitive training on these areas.